Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Know Your City, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Waltham. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to have June Kinoshita of the Waltham Times with us. In case you didn't know it, a year or two ago, Waltham got a newspaper, and June is the driving force behind it. June, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and whatever in the world possessed you to start this project?
Well, first of all, it's very kind of you. Thank you for that introduction. But I'm certainly not the only driving force in the Waltham Times. I think, as may often happen, it's running into someone else who says, I want to do this too, but I don't want to do it by myself. I mean, you were, but I suppose I was a little bit of that catalyst of like actively going out seeking people who were like-minded and then drawing them in to join this incredible adventure we're on now. Um, I actually started my career as a journalist. I was a science major and I wasn't particularly interested in going into the lab. I just loved science and the ideas and the impact on the world. And one day had the kind of epiphany saying, that I should write about science. People need to know this stuff. It's wonderful, wonderful ideas to know about, and I would love to write about it. So I had a first career as a science journalist, starting at a daily newspaper in Berkeley, California, when I was still an undergraduate, and then moving on to Technology Review at MIT. That was a magazine. Later on, I was at Scientific American, and then I also worked on documentary films for PBS and so on. That was kind of the first part of my career, and then the big middle part, I got drawn into working with foundations on funding, driving innovation and um, advances in biomedical research. And so that was a whole nother adventure, learning about how the world of drug development and disease research works, but also how one leverages foundation dollars to really make a difference. And then that led to work at a patient advocacy organization where we had to raise money from patients and families and friends of people who had this rare condition, but using my journalism skills to communicate. I put out a magazine 3 times a year and also wrote on the blog and wrote all, it was a total immersion in marketing, community outreach, engagement, all of those things, fundraising. They all came together around trying to drive progress in this particular rare disease. And then when I was contemplating stepping down from that, I felt I'd kind of done what I had set out to do with this organization, grown it, gotten it onto the global stage, and had many clinical trials now for this condition. I was thinking, what do I want to do next? And I knew that Waltham needed a newspaper. I personally felt that I needed a newspaper to understand the city, to be able to vote intelligently in elections, understand all the things that I'd see on Facebook, people getting mad about this or that, or talking about this and that. Like, well, what's the truth? What's actually happening? What's not just speculation on social media? Who's going to go find out? So that led to reaching out to others in Waltham to say who thinks, we need a newspaper, who wants to join this effort. And here we are, and it's kind of a full circle going back to my original love in journalism,
Mhm.
but now feeling like I have acquired all this skill along the way to let me actually do something that, when I was 20, I would not have had a clue how to do.
So I imagine it's been a great learning experience. Now, when exactly did you publish the first edition on the web?
The first story was a October 1st, I believe, or first week of October 2024.
So
and we
we're
had a
18,
baby
19
website.
months, 19 months into it.
Yeah, yeah, about a year and a half now.
Mhm.
Hard to believe.
So, how many people are working on the Times right now?
Well, there's I would say, okay, we have, thanks to our many readers and donors, we're able to pay a very, a lean and mean core staff. We have three part-time reporters and one part-time assistant editor. So the equivalent of two full-time, FTEs, I guess. And then supporting them are probably around um, you know, two, top editors, about a half dozen copy editors. These are all volunteers. Copy editors, people who post the stories on the website, people who put together the newsletter 3 times a week. So we have different teams. On the night before the newsletter comes out, there's like a little virtual team of people get together to produce it. And then we have amazing graphic designer Carolyn Grossman, who created our branding, and then we're constantly calling on for we're going to do this campaign or that campaign. Can you create a graphic for this, graphic for that?
Mhm.
So we have a marketing team, also all volunteers. With backgrounds, professional backgrounds in marketing and development and fundraising. So there's probably about 7 or 8 people involved with that. And then we have a community outreach team that's out there at the community events or going to school nights, going to Waltham Day. You'll see us at Pride. You'll see us at Steampunk and so on. You'll see us at the Sheep Shearing Festival
Mhm.
this weekend. And we have 6 volunteers because that's a 9-hour event and we need at least 2 people at any given time at the table, so
Mhm.
so lots of, I would say all told, probably about 50 volunteers
That's
working in different
impressive.
teams. Yeah.
That's impressive. So let me ask you this. There's a story in town. Maybe there's a house fire. Okay.
hmm
Can you walk me through from when the call goes out until it's in the paper? What happens? What's this roll of events?
So if it's a house fire, we have a remarkable young man in town, Joseph Sharkey, who um, as a young, I mean, he's still very young, but was really fascinated by our police and fire, our emergency responders. And he taught himself photography and he takes these beautiful photographs of, just vivid photos of, police work and fight, department work. And he's gotten to know a lot of the officers, so you know, they're
Yeah.
fine when he comes around with their camera. He now has a Waltham Times badge because he's kind of our freelance photographer, and he has the scanner on all the time. So he's the one. That's why we reached out to him. Because like, how did you know that there was a fire at 2 a.m. on Walnut Street, whatever? Like he's got the scanner on, and so usually he will go respond to that even before we know about it. He just kind of
Mhm.
that's just his mission, and then he sends us the photos. He might send us a little blurb. We'll do some fact checking. We have Sid Abnett right now does our police blotter and fire. So if we have questions about the circumstances around an event, Sid might call the fire department or the police department to get more information, verification of what we initially heard. So that's really so that goes into a little Google document. I top edit it, then I send it to a copy editor who copy edits it and makes sure it's all in AP style. I upload the photo to our website and then I upload the story and format it and hit publish and it goes out. And then a day or two later, when we put the newsletter together, we'll do a little blurb. We'll grab the little photo, reformat it, put it into the newsletter with a little blurb, and it goes out along with, a dozen other stories that have,
Yeah. You mentioned something that caught my ear, AP format. For those of us who are not in journalism, what in the world does that mean?
Oh, so AP style, yes,
I'm
that's all right.
sorry, style.
AP is the Associated Press, and a lot of these publications have, over years, put together a style book of how to punctuate, capitalize, spell, how to treat numerals, addresses, people's titles, company, just anything you can
Mhm.
think of that you might end up writing about. Um, English, well, any language is being what it is, like,
Yeah.
they're not, languages evolve without, you know, following specific rules,
Mhm.
um, so, but when you're in print, you want to have a certain consistency.
Mhm.
That's what a style book is for. So, you know, and for anyone who's paying close attention, it may seem like we contradict ourselves all the time. For example, in a headline, if you have a quotes around the name of, like say a title of a book or something, right? I'm not even sure books are putting quotes. Anyway, whatever goes inside quotes. Um, in the story, you have double quotations, but if it's in a headline, you only use single quotations. So you see it in the headline with single quotations, then right underneath in the body of the story it's in double quotation. You go like, well, that doesn't seem consistent, but that's the rule. That's the style book
Yeah.
rule, you know.
Actually, to me, it sounds like something an editor, it would scream to an editor, but most of us may not even notice it.
We probably, yeah, I know. We will be like on an email thread going like, should we capitalize all the letters? This was one, Reach, REACH, which
Mhm.
is a nonprofit based in Waltham. So there's an AP style book rule that organizations that use acronyms
Mhm.
um, do not capitalize all the letters. Just, but it's like IKEA in AP style is not capital IKEA, it's capital I lowercase KEA,
Mhm.
even though the company itself brands it as I think it's all I'm not sure if it's even all uppercase, um but there are companies. I'm not even sure. IBM, I think, is like that feels really perverse. Anyway, this is why we get into these long. I'm even sitting here going like, do we all, like, um, so according to that rule, reach is uppercase R and the list is lowercase. But then it kept bothering me every time we use it. I said, because reach is also a normal word in the English language, it would be very confusing. Are you talking about the name of the organization or are you talking about the verb, reach?
Mhm.
And then I found another part of the AP style book that says, well, don't do that if it's confusing. Well, thanks a lot.
You know what's interesting, June? Most of us don't think about this, and yet when we're reading something, it may look not quite perfect because the style book isn't being followed.
Yeah,
So, I find this fascinating
yeah,
discussion. We could go on and on about it. But I wanted to ask you, we'll shift gears a little bit.
yeah.
Uh, what type of underlying board structures do you have? I know you have a board of directors, and
Yes.
what's their role?
So their role is really to provide governance and oversight of the organization.
Mhm.
Um, And that's because as we're a nonprofit, we very day one, decided we would be a nonprofit, and we set up a nonprofit corporation with the state of Massachusetts and got our nonprofit, um, you know, tax ID number and all that from, certification from the IRS. As a nonprofit, you are bound by many regulations about how you handle donations. So, like donor intent is really important. So, if donors are giving money to support the newspaper, it has to be spent on that. You can't spend it on, let's say we decide as a side venture we're going to launch a food truck, or
That's a good
whatever,
example. That's a good
unrelated.
example.
Yeah, whatever, something like that. Or obviously you can't use it for personal use,
Mhm.
you can't, I mean, and so, or, a donor might say, I only want to use it to cover reporting on schools. Then I mean, we try not to, these are called restricted donations, and we prefer unrestricted, any general, you know, use to support our operations.
Mhm.
But if someone said it has to be for this specific use, we would have to, um, honor that donor intent. Um, so that's just one example of like the governance of the board makes sure that we are following all the rules. We don't want a situation where all of a sudden, we're arrested for violating, X number of tax laws and but
I
also
think
they manage our risks, so they want to make sure we have the right kind of insurance coverage for the kind of things that we do. Um, the
it's
board
st-
members,
it's
yeah.
it's still a business, nonprofit or otherwise, and you need
It's
those.
yeah, it's not a free for all. There are a lot of rules about what can be done, how you ask for donations, what you can do with the donated funds, how do you have to be transparent about what you do with them. Um, we file taxes, all those
Mhm.
returns and all that kind of thing. So that is the primary, and the board essentially is the corporate entity. So technically, they would be hiring the management of the Waltham Times. Now we're still in very early days. Like, I suppose I'm on the board, but I'm also managing a lot of the
The
day-to-day
day-to-day.
operations. And I can do that as a volunteer. If I were to be paid, I would no longer be a voting member of the board. I
Mhm.
might be
You
what's called an ex
executive,
officio member, yeah,
yeah, okay.
but there's a separation between management and
And the
board.
board, obviously, because they would be your bosses.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And what
So
about the journalistic side of it? What happens if there's a journalism question? Is this appropriate for us to cover this, or how should we cover this?
yes, yeah. So that comes up all the time. And we have our own like our editorial team. So it's Mary Pratt, myself, and Steve Milmore. And Laura Glazer is often very involved. She's kind of, I would say she's kind of like our lead copy editor, but um, and so we might discuss it amongst ourselves. But if it's really a knotty, kind of difficult issue and we're not really sure, we might reach out to what we have an editorial advisory board.
Mhm.
So these are very seasoned journalists who've probably seen it all. So Ellen Clegg, who was the editorial page editor for the Boston Globe, Paul Salmon, who has been a longtime correspondent for PBS NewsHour, Nico Mele, who was I think, associate publisher of the LA Times and what ran the Shorenstein Center it's affiliated with the Newman Foundation at at Harvard, I should say. And Adriana Lacey, who's teaches journalism at Brandeis. So um, we will go to them and say, this thing came up, we're concerned about the ethics of reporting this or that. I mean, a real life example actually, and we don't always get clear answers because these are shifting, complicated issues. So felt it was very important to have a police blotter in the Waltham Times, and many people have asked for it. They want to know what's happening. Who's arrested, what incidents have happened that have drawn police attention in the city. So every week we put out we call it the public safety report because we do police and fire. And if there's a police activity that involves actually making an arrest, um, we have made a policy decision that we would report the name of the person arrested.
Mhm.
And that's because once they're arrested, they are in the custody of the state,
Mhm.
government, right? And no, we sort of believe no American should go into custody without their name being known. It's not saying they're guilty or anything. They may be absolved later. It might be, but they are. This has happened to them. So, for the sake of transparency and accountability, we need to list their name. Um, and then, but then people get upset. They're like, well, I don't want my name in the paper, and I'm saying, well, it's in the public record, it's on the police blotter. But what our obligation is, if we've published a name, is that we need to follow that case and report if the person has been exonerated, released, found, not guilty of whatever they were originally charged. That has to be in the public record as well. Um, that has to be in our reporting. So, but we debated that because in the age of the internet, they say everything, once your name is out there, it's out there forever. And we know that that can cause, potentially cause harm to people. And we have to make a decision. Does that outweigh the harm of not ever naming people and not having a public record of who is going into police custody?
Mhm.
So that I'm sure that's when we discussed with
I'm
with
sure,
our editorial advisory board.
I'm sure you did. The It doesn't cost me anything to read the Waltham Times.
Right. Yep, no
How are,
paywall.
how are you funded? Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. No paywall. How are you funded? Or are there plans to put up a paywall?
We, at this time, it's really it's part of our mission statement to make news available to everyone. So no paywall, because news is, to us, it's not an optional thing. It's not a nice to have. We feel it's a must have if you're to function in our society. You need to know, you know, I don't know, simple example. Okay, the city is going to, let's say they pass this ordinance as proposed to change the snow removal rules, right?
I read that this morning.
Yes, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to get out and shovel snow or pay someone. But now, like if you have a one or two person residence, you're no longer exempt from this rule, and there will be fines. You'll probably get a ticket or you get a warning the first few times don't do it after the next snowstorm. Um, but you could be fined. Well, people need to know ahead of time that this is now, you know, a change in the ordinance in the city, right? Otherwise, you could be innocently going around and not shoveling your walk, and all next thing you know, you're slammed with $100 ticket or something. So, I mean, that's a very simple current example of, when the law changes, or if you're, you know, experiencing, economic hardship, the city has a lot of resources, food pantries and all kinds of things. We publish lists of them. It, what are you going to do if you don't know where things are? Where to get help? Or there's some big change in school rules, and yeah, the school's supposed to communicate that to you directly if you're a parent, but you may or may not see that email. You may not
Yeah.
have email, so there have to be, free accessible channels for people to get this really important information so that they can function, in our society.
So,
Um,
so the decision was taken. It's free, no charge.
yes, no charge.
So I mean, even if everybody were a volunteer, you have other costs just to
We have
even get it
significant
up and
costs.
running. So
Yes.
how are you funded?
We are funded through donations. So for our readers who can afford it, $5 a month, $10 a month, if they can do that for us on a monthly basis, enough people do it. Let's say we have a campaign right now. We're up to about 350 monthly donors. If we can get to 1,000, this is out of a
Mhm.
city of 67,000 people. So, you know, a small fraction of people in Waltham, if they can spare that $10 a month, that would cover our newsroom cost, our reporters, our editors, um, and that would, you know, that would make a huge difference. So that's, but we do it through donations. Other people send us a check once a year, or and we're very, very blessed that people have stepped up. Um, but I hope that more people will. I mean, we hear lots of great feedback. People seem to love what we do. We hope we're not just providing like the police blotter and all the city council news and all that serious bread and butter news. I mean, one of our readers said to us, like, every time I open the newsletter that comes in an email, there's something that brings them joy. And I loved hearing that because that's something I want to do as an editor here, is also share stories that make you appreciate Waltham, appreciate the people, appreciate your neighbors. A lot of remarkable things, a lot of stories that deserve to be told. So we hope that people don't take that for granted, that they do see and appreciate the amount of work that goes into it, and that collectively, all together, put each person putting a little bit can really sustain the Waltham Times. 'Cause we take it literally. We are community driven, community supported. Uh,
Do you sell advertising?
we do. It has been slow to get off the ground. And partly I think digital advertising is difficult. It's hard for people to gauge how effective it is, or there are ways to do it, but the business that does it needs a certain amount of sophistication. Like, they need to be able to build a landing page and measure how many people are coming, and how many are converting to actually buying something, and is it all that kind of stuff. So that's a little hard for your average, like, small business owner on Main Street or Moody Street. Um, but we are planning to put out our first print edition. So we are a digital newspaper, but we have a long range uh, dream, I guess, to be able to put out some kind of print publication.
Mhm.
I don't know that it'll ever be a daily, but it might be a weekly or bi-weekly, or
Mhm.
even a monthly, but something that people can hold in their hands that gives them a lot of that sense of connectedness, and you know,
Mhm.
great information about the city. And so, as a stepping stone to that, we're going to try two print editions this year, one in June, which will come out right after the Waltham High School graduation. So it's going to have photos about the graduation. It will have an opportunity for families to congratulate their graduating seniors, along with stories about what's the cool stuff happening in Waltham this summer. And I literally have been walking up and down Moody Street, and I've got to get to other parts of the city too, but there's only a couple of us. But I pop into each store and I go, like, here's what we're doing. I show them this. Oh well, I don't have it on me, but we have a beautiful flyer that Carolyn designed. That's a mock-up of what the paper would look like,
Mhm.
and it'll be 16 pages. And so we have all our advertising rates, and we're starting to get people buying the ads.
Mhm.
So if we can get enough, hopefully we can continue that relationship. We're going to come out with another print issue in December for the holidays. And, so fingers crossed that, our local businesses will be as excited as we are about the opportunity to have an ad in a physical paper.
Mhm.
I hope that they'll see, really positive feedback from the community, and that we can build on that to, really have a print edition in the future. Yeah.
It sounds really wonderful is the word that comes to mind, but also challenging as well. How does the Times define success? What is success to you?
Um, I guess success is that we get this. We're always saying we're flying the plane as we're building it. we're all like flapping our arms as hard as we can. At some point, we'd like to be able to sit and have it fly without so much arm flapping. But so success is feeling that we've gotten it to a certain place where it's sustainable, that has a robust community of people supporting it through donations, of local businesses supporting it through advertising, with some local grants. I mean, some of the local foundations have been wonderful in supporting us. The Jones Partnership, the Waltham Cultural Council, the Waltham Community Foundation, and so on. Um, but to feel that we can, you know, focus more on getting the news out, and that the community is supporting us enough so that we can, you know, keep going. I mean, I think we'll always have to work hard and not take for granted the support that we're getting, but it would be nice to reach a certain level where it feels like we're at a cruising altitude. That would be success. And wrapped into that is, it would only become successful because it's it's widely known in the city, and that people see the value of it. We have lots of readers, and so on. So getting to where it's a real going thing. It's not going to go away tomorrow. It's going to be the that is our aspiration, to be the paper of record for the city. um, and and to get there, it's through winning the hearts and minds of readers.
Mhm. Okay, this has been absolutely fascinating, June. And I know that our listeners will appreciate what you have brought to the city. Is there anything else you want to tell me, or something that I forgot to ask you?
Oh gosh, I should have thought about this ahead of time. No, you're very thorough, Annette. Uh, I guess the other thing is, because we can't be everywhere in the city and there's so much going on, we want people to know, like, please share news, tips, share stories about remarkable things that are happening, people, events, because we'd love to be able to cover, we can't promise we'll cover everything because we have capacity issues. We have only so many reporters and so on. But at least, what I hate as a journalist is like somebody telling me, "Did you know that?" I'm like, "Oh, I totally missed that." At least I want to know, like, at least I knew, and I made it like an intentional, like, we don't have the reporters to do that, or we'll have some other way to cover this or cover that. So, but we again, this is so much a community supported, community driven enterprise, and so I really want everybody in Waltham to feel like they're a part of this, and that they have a voice. If they have something they want to share, that our door is open, and we can, you know, we're here to transmit and get those stories out there.
Well, June, thank you so very much for your time. I do know how busy you are, and I really appreciate your taking the time out of your day to share the wonderful things that you're doing with the Waltham Times.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Annette, and have a wonderful rest of your day.